endurance at the end of the day, wasn't it?
I wish I had a Bart Wood here to tell the chat that they're making a mockery of the sport.
Stop making a mockery of this.
The Russian juggernaut Denis Iplenkov has been gripping people's attention in the strength world for a long time now, and for good reason. But how exactly did he manage to get such a strong foothold, I mean armhold, on the arm wrestling scene, and what are the ups and downs in his career? I am the Arm Historian, and today I'll be your tour guide as we take a look at the rise and fall of Denis Iplenkov. Is John Brzenk also the left-handed greatest of all time? It's nearly universally accepted in the arm wrestling world that John Brzenk is the greatest of all time, but is that also the case for his left arm? John has accrued over 500 title wins in high-level tournaments, in a career that spanned almost... Hello. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you might be. Hope you're having a wonderful Sunday. Yes, we are back on Sunday as we were normally. No, I did a live stream on Monday not too long ago, but I think I'm gonna reclaim my spot here on the Sunday lineup. Afterwards, you could watch The Fix if Neil is even going live after being at East versus West. And then, I don't know if it's still the case, but after The Fix, you can go enjoy Aussie Arm Wrestler over at his channel. But right now, it's time for the Arm Historian live. Let me start some music. There we go. How are you all doing on this Sunday? Did everyone watch East vs. West 25? I'm gonna start a poll. Did you watch the event? I'm guessing most of you did. We're gonna go over some matches in the event that I wanted to touch on, because I watched it, obviously. And then talk about some other stuff that came up, one of which is gonna be Levan stepping away from his belt. Very peculiar. We close the door here. There we go. So I might not go over each and every match in like full detail, although I will be covering most of them. And spoiler warning from here on out, obviously, in case you haven't watched the event yet. But yeah, the preliminary matches actually got started a bit late on. I missed a couple of them, like the two first matches, in which there was a guy who I haven't seen before. I think he's a Chinese guy, although I'm not sure. Hey Chuck, how you doing? Yeah, you might be first. A bit of a low turnout for now, but we'll see how the stream progresses. But welcome in, Chuck. Good to see you, man. Hope you're doing well. Yeah, let me see if I can quickly pull up who I'm talking about here. I think I'm not gonna show you the matches, obviously, but I think this match might be on their YouTube channel, so let me quickly pull that up for you guys. There we go. Okay, so this is the preliminary live stream on the East vs West YouTube channel. Like I said, I'm gonna show entire matches. I just want to show these guys, who I think were the winners of the tournament right before the main event, so to speak. If I'm not mistaken. Yeah, both these guys obviously haven't heard of them yet, but it's exciting to see what I think is a Chinese guy over here. Although you can correct me if I'm wrong on that. Yeah, we definitely need to catch up, Chuck. It seems it's almost just a live stream between the two of us right now. What's going on with Levan? Well, Levan, during the press conference, I'll pull that up too so you guys can kind of follow along. During the press conference, said he's actually vacating his title. So yeah, the super heavyweight title is kind of back up for grabs. He announced it somewhere, I think here is where he's talking about it. So yeah, kind of caught people by surprise. I don't know if they talked about it a lot beforehand. It kind of made it seem like they didn't really discuss it all that much beforehand. There's like, after Levan got done talking, Neil kind of takes over and looks a little surprised. But I don't know if they kind of set it up that way, or I'm sure they talked about it to some degree, right? But yeah, as far as I can tell, Levan stepping away from the sport for now. Kind of needs more time to heal up is the way he framed it. And will be coming back or wanting to come back sometime next year. Yeah, and I think he kind of felt the general consensus of people was that it would be silly for him to hold on to the championship belt if he's not even actively pulling, right? So yeah, that's what's going on with Levan as far as I can tell. We quickly change a couple settings here on the new arm. Yeah, I think this might work a little better. Yeah, okay. So yeah, it remains to be seen what this will do to the super heavyweight rankings. I think honestly there's some new life being inserted into the super heavyweight category now that Levan kind of stepped away for a bit. It also remains to be seen, like, how long will he actually step away? Will he stay true to what he's saying and come back sometime next year? Will it take longer? Some people are saying he's forever quitting competitive arm wrestling. Yeah, I don't know. A lot of people were also remarking on the fact that he didn't look nearly as good or as fit as he did before. So yeah, he might potentially be, or has been, off cycle or on a very low cycle for a while, and kind of coaxing through like that. I don't know. I guess we'll wait for some more news to come from Levan himself. But they also, and I think I have to commend them on this because it's the first time I've seen this done so quickly. East vs West 26 seems to be, yeah, a really good, lining up to be a really good card so far. So, yeah, definitely something to look forward to. I said it before, the fact that it's in China, place where I'm guessing the reach of arm wrestling hasn't really gotten to in any real significant degree, or at least as far as we know, in the rest of the world. But yeah, I can't wait to see some of their competitors and some of their top guys. I have no clue about them right now, so I can't wait to learn more about that. Now, this doesn't mean like the fact that East vs West is going to be in China doesn't mean that there's going to be like a ton of Chinese competitors on the card. At least I don't think so. But I do think that the fact that an event is being held there will at least bring some eyes to the Chinese arm wrestling world, right? And maybe get it into the fold a little bit with the rest of the world. Because I think there's huge swaths of the world still with like serious arm wrestling potential, or arm wrestlers that have a very high ceiling as far as potential goes, that is still largely untapped, you know? There might even be some guys that are really good already. So, yeah. They just are waiting to be found. I hope this is kind of a small step in that direction, right? I could at least take a match and lose it. Now we will hang on to his undefeated status and never-ending discussion who is the real number one. Yeah, I get it, and I agree. I think Levan holds that status in some kind of mythical regard. In my eyes, he lost it when he faced Hermes. He went 4-2 in that match, I believe. So yeah, in my eyes, he kind of lost it back then already. But yeah, for him, apparently it's very important to hold on to that status. Which, you know, I kind of get if you're looking to leave your legacy on arm wrestling. It's quite a feat to say I was undefeated in the open weight category for X amount of years during what is probably the most competitive period in the sport so far, right? But yeah, to a degree, I understand why he wants to do that, kind of cement his legacy in arm wrestling. But then again, I think even without the undefeated claim or unpinned claim, his legacy is already really huge. Even if he would quit right now, which I honestly don't think he will. But even if he would, his legacy is already like undisputable within the sport, right? I think he already reached a ceiling that hadn't been reached before within arm wrestling, especially as far as power goes. And not only is he really strong, he also like paid his dues, and because of that is quite versatile technically as well. Chuck said I actually did not watch Hermes versus Levan because I didn't see Hermes as a serious contender, and I was disappointed with the previous King of the Table. Yeah, I get it. Why you wouldn't watch certain matches or certain events. I think a lot of people have valid gripes with certain organizations, so I get that part. But yeah, I would watch the match if I were you. It's a pretty good match. And yeah, in it showed that Levan was not invincible, you know what I mean? It showed that he could be beaten if faced with the right athlete. I was shocked how well Hermes did back then. Yeah, I think the entire arm wrestling world was kind of shocked with that result. People were kind of referencing before that Vitali at the top 8, I think, was kind of the only person in recent memory who gave Levan a little bit of pause during a match. So, yeah. It was a big surprise for a lot of people, for sure. Let me quickly pull up the matches of the event, since we're talking about it anyway. Not a lot. Like I said, I'm not gonna go over every single match individually, but I'll touch on a couple of things that I remembered and matches that were really great. The Gabby versus Irina match, kind of one-sided. You could see Irina had a decent amount of power, but once Gabby took over, she took over for real, and there was no coming back for Irina here. So kind of a one-sided match. But then again, I don't know if in the women's super heavyweight class there's a ton of really interesting matches that you can make right now. If I was them, and I know they do to a degree, but if I was them, I would like keep exploring the lighter women's classes. That isn't to say I don't like seeing like Gabby Vasconcelos on the table, because I do. But I think there's a bunch of other interesting matches that we can make without having to resort to the open women's class every time. You know what I mean? Warzinski versus Nordalet. This match, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, Nordalet won in the end. But it was a pretty close match, if I'm not mistaken. At a certain point, it seems like Warzinski was in full control, but then I believe in the end, Nordalet pulled it out. I might have to double check because I'm actually not quite sure anymore because the match was that close. I know at a certain point being convinced that Adam Warzinski would win, but then I'm not quite sure if he did actually end up pulling it out. Nordalet made it very close, so maybe he did end up pulling it out in the end. Not quite sure. Here we can, good old gold arm, we can watch all the results. Adam Warzinski did end up winning, so I was wrong about that. Yeah, I had a feeling. But yeah, in the end, very close match, and I enjoyed it a lot. Which weight class was this? This was in the heavyweight division, I think. Let me quickly double check here. Middleweight division. So what is that, like minus 95, I think? Or yeah, I think minus 95. If I'm not mistaken. Close match. I enjoyed it. Adam Warzinski seems to be doing something right, because Nordalet is no joke even on the right arm. Yeah, 95 I believe, says Chuck, indeed. Let's see what else we got here. Paul Lin versus Eldar Babenko. Not a close match at all. The opposite of the previous match. Eldar pretty much dominated Paul Lin, unfortunately. Yeah, even though Paul Lin, coming into the match, said he was like in really good shape, he managed to prepare for months on end, he knew this match was coming for a long time, and he was in a really good shape. Eldar ended up, yeah, taking over the match completely. Yeah, White Orc. I love me some White Orc as well, Chuck. Paul Lin, great guy, but didn't manage to pull it out here. Yeah, this one. Very good match, I found. I think Krasimir in the end pulled it out. Pretty sure about that. But it was kind of a close match, in that Nugo definitely seemed to have the strength, but because he stopped Krasi's attack multiple times, but Krasi in a very Krasi way just hung in there 3 times in a row and dragged Nugo to the path. So yeah, in the end, Krasi did end up taking this match. Nonetheless, I enjoyed the match for what it was. Always liked me some Krasimir. And Nugo too. Nugo is a fine athlete. Sagov versus Jordan Sonev. Also pretty one-sided, if I remember correctly. After a while, all these matches kind of start to blend into each other, but I believe Sagov won this match 3-0. Mostly relying on his press. His very quick and powerful press, which seemed to be too much for Sonev to handle. Let's see the next match. Yeah, so this was built as the co-main match. Kamil Jablonski versus Georgi Tsvetkov. And I think it deserved to be the #1 main match because, yeah, definitely match of the night. I think most people will agree with that. They made it a 7-round match, which is kind of a surprise to me. But I guess it has something to do with Levan vacating the super heavyweight title, maybe? I don't know. Hey Chuck, yeah, 23 months, that is a lot. I think you might be, let me quickly check, the longest member so far. No, there's one. No, there's actually two people ahead of you. Yeah. Madman Captain Pretentious. Check out their YouTube channel if you haven't already. It makes like really unique arm wrestling content. But he's been a member for 32 months. So yeah, but Chuck, thanks a lot, man. I really appreciate it. I appreciate all the members or people just watching the stream. Of course. Matthias says, what a banger, by far the match of the evening. Yes, indeed. I agree, and I think most people will agree with that. Bob Anderson says, Camille is the best top roller in the world. So yeah, during this match, there was a certain point where Camille went for the press, Georgie kind of caught him, transitioned into a posting up roll, going low himself, and that forced Camille into a defensive position, like a defensive kind of press, where your arm is super twisted. But then instead of going straight to the pin pad, Camille went into a defensive open top roll, what some would call a king's move even. And yeah, managed to defeat Georgie that way. Took Georgie's hand and took him to the pin pad with a top roll. But if not for Georgie's transition into a flop press himself, I'm remembering the entire match as I'm talking about it, Georgie transitioned into a flop press himself and ended up winning that round, if I'm not mistaken. So within one round, they kind of switched styles on each other, and each one adopted the other one's pulling style. So yeah, both these guys showing how versatile they are. King's Move Social Club, what's up, man? Good to see you. Good to see you. Matthias says, yeah, nothing better than when the athletes are being pushed into lanes they usually don't use. Absolutely love that stuff. Yep. Both of them showed they were capable of a lot more than people thought they were capable of, obviously. This match was before the other match, but for some reason it's like ordered this way here. Not a lot to say about this one either. Quite a one-sided affair, with Prokopchuk taking the win pretty cleanly. And then we can talk about this one. I think I missed most of this match, but if I'm not mistaken, Oleg Zog took this one pretty convincingly from what I do remember about it. Even going 3-0, I believe, so yeah. Not a lot to say on this one either. But then our final match of the night, Vitaly Larratt versus Alijan Muratov, a match where people were kind of split on. We're gonna have to be honest. In hindsight, we can all say we knew the outcome a long time ago, but I think people were quite split on who to pick as a winner here. There were people saying Vitaly would just blast through Alijan as if he wasn't there, and there were people that were saying Alijan beat Morozov way more convincingly than Vitaly beat Morozov, so that means that Alijan must have a chance here, proclaiming him as the best left arm puller in the world already. But then, yeah, the match quickly showed that Vitaly was way too much for our man Alijan here. Mr. 50k himself ended up taking the loss versus the ice road trucking giant Vitaly Larratt, who went on to win the match 4-0, if I'm not mistaken there. So yeah, Alijan pretty clearly didn't stand a chance. Vitaly top rolled him to the path 4 times in a row. They went to straps a couple of times, so Alijan did manage to slip at least, which is something, especially against Vitaly, who has like a major gripping strength. But yeah, other than that, he took it very convincingly. What's the height difference between them? I believe Muratov is something like 182 or something, and Vitaly's 204, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, quite a bit of difference. And then Murazov weighs 108 or something like that, 105 kilograms along that line, and Vitaly I think is at 140 plus right now. So yeah. King's Move Social Club says Travis could beat them both if he got on a pancake. Do you think like a Travis from this age could beat them both? If he like went on a cycle for a year or something? I don't know about that. I kinda doubt it. Maybe if the old Travis upped his cycle, he could have beaten or would have a chance against either of them, but Travis right now, I have a hard time imagining him like even being able to move Vitaly little or Alijan little Vitaly. Bob Anderson says, I was thinking Alijan could at least get a stop in the defensive position and make Vitaly work for the pin. Yeah, that's kind of what I expected too, for Vitaly to have a little more issue getting through Alijan, but wasn't what ended up happening very clearly. Maybe a 2-year protocol, says King's Move. Travis, after a 2-year cycle now, could do it in his opinion. Interesting. I'm not convinced personally. Chuck says that height difference for a hooker is a death sentence. Yeah, I can see that for sure. Alijan having some issues forcing Vitaly into a hook. Like a lot of people, I think, who had Vitaly kind of gave that same argument. A lot of people who know what they're talking about kind of said like, I don't think Vitaly is really that hookable. The best weapon versus Vitaly is either having a better top roll or wall pressing or something like that, because good luck getting him into a hook and then making him stay there with that enormous lever. But yeah, the main match, this match, kind of ended up being a little bit of a disappointment as far as like the match itself went, how close it was, stuff like that. But then the other main event made up for that twice over with Camille versus Georgie, and of course a lot of people are saying Camille will be the next big thing in the super heavyweights. I can potentially maybe hold on to that belt. So am I to understand it correctly that Camille now has the super heavyweight belt because Levan vacated it, and this is the most recent super heavyweight like match that happens? Or since Devon was number 2, does he become the automatic number 1? And does that mean he has to defend his title in the super heavyweights? Because as far as I understand it, Devon has quite definitively said he would go down to the 105 class, right? I believe, or 115? 115 maybe. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's gonna happen on that front. Alijan should have stood on a platform. Well, that's one thing, and it's funny because not a lot of people make use of the riser, but it is freely available for everyone. Like in theory, someone like Vitaly could even use a riser in a competitive event like East versus West. Not that he would want to, I'm sure, but I think a lot of people choose not to because of some kind of perception that it brings along with it. I don't know. Maybe they genuinely don't think it would help them, or I have no clue. But I don't see a lot of people using them. Like, when I see people using a riser, it's usually in the women's division, or maybe Nugo has used a riser. I'm not quite sure, but I don't see a lot of them. Of course, amongst the lighter weight classes, you'll see more of them. But still, not a lot of risers. Even in like local events that I went to, like local tournaments here, people don't use the riser a lot. Should know. I'm just curious about why that would be. I think it's like a pure, like an ego thing or something. Like the perception of people that you're using some kind of outside help when you're doing that, or that you're a short guy or something. I don't know. Travis has a table IQ close to Devon. I don't know. Might be. You look at just the length of active arm wrestling, like Travis is way lower, of course, than Devon, so I don't know. I don't know, he always seemed to be... He could pull in different styles, but he didn't do it a lot, that's for sure. Always seemed to go to that one move, and he depended a lot on speed off the go. Of course, he's one of the best to ever do it. Like, I'm not trying to diminish Travis's accolades here. I'm just trying to, like, conceptualize them or, like, add some context from other grades of the sport, you know what I mean? If we're making a direct comparison between Devon and Travis, I think by now Devon has surpassed Travis in a lot of things arm wrestling related, and I think Travis would probably agree with that, right? If you're putting Travis against some of the guys, some of the top guys that haven't been quite as long in the sport, yeah, Travis could probably teach them a lot. Still. Even though there is some notion that the sport has evolved somewhat, right? And has become tougher and tougher and has evolved on a technical level too. But yeah. Chuck says, would it give you anything you don't gain? Arm length. And then you would expect wrestlers like Emil use it all the time to put themselves more over opponents' arms. At least that's what I imagine. Yeah, I think maybe if someone like Emil would use the riser to be able to press better, maybe there's more of a risk of elbow falls. You would have a harder time, like, you would have to scrunch up more in order to still keep his elbow on the table. Yeah, I don't know. There must be some disadvantage to it that makes most people not use it. Because yeah, it is a fact, right, that I don't think a lot of, or any of the super heavyweight guys use a riser. I haven't seen it happen even once, I think, in the history of not only East versus West, but like any other competitive event I can think of. I don't think there's been a lot of examples, or even any off the top of my head, of super heavyweight guys using a riser. Very interesting. Because in a way, it feels somewhat archaic, right? The whole concept of even using a riser. Maybe you should get rid of it altogether. I don't know. Probably a lot more behind it, and a lot more things people can tell me are good about a riser or necessary. But yeah, I can't really think of them straight away. Like in general, my thoughts and feelings about the event as a whole, and then I'm talking more about the production side of things. It kind of felt like a step back in some ways. I saw a lot of people were like saying that they appreciated how it felt more intimate and like a little smaller scale and stuff like that, but I don't know, man, maybe that's just scope of those people. To me, the audience not being as visible or even as present as other events, combined with some audio issues for sure. Like you couldn't hear the like the songs people were playing when the athletes were stepping onto the stage. You couldn't hear the athletes a lot of the time, or the corner at all. When Neil was talking, he was by far the loudest thing, like by far. Yeah, there were a lot of like audio syncing, or audio mixing, I should say, issues. And then yeah, the stage just looked a little smaller scaled. The audience wasn't as into it, or at least the mic wasn't picking up on that at all on the audience. So yeah, I think in a lot of ways it felt kind of like a step back. The commentary was fine, as far as I could tell. I liked Levan being there in the commentary booth. Devon did a really good job commentating. Neil and Ray, they were all fine. Yeah, no notes on that one from me. But then yeah, a lot of the other stuff was kind of I don't know, personally I didn't like it as much as some of the previous events. I still enjoyed the event as a whole, and I think they did a good job for sure. I always want to like put a little asterisk when I'm complaining like this, quote unquote, that I still enjoyed the event, and I think they're doing a great job with East versus West in general. I think it's without a doubt the best arm wrestling event we've had so far in our history. Not the specific one, but East versus West as a whole is the best, like the most enjoyable league so far, in my opinion, that we've ever had, even including WL and leagues like that. So yeah, I think they're doing a great job. But then when I see stuff like this, where a lot of people were also mentioning that athletes didn't quite promote this event as much as they did before, and with the owners talking about most events, if not all of them, making some kind of loss for them financially, that makes it, yeah, a little unfortunate when I see an event like this that probably underperformed for them, if I would have to guess. Like the hype for this event seemed less than a lot of the previous ones, and I know people are quick to point to, okay, there's no Devon on this card, or there's no, this is my favorite puller on this card. But I don't think that tells the whole story. Definitely that has something to do with it, but I don't think that necessarily tells the whole story. I think if a lot of athletes would have taken more time to promote the event, or maybe if the organizers of the event put some more pressure on athletes, or included it in their contract in some way that you need to do promotion of one way or another, or if they would reach out to more content creators to promote the actual event, yeah, that would go a long way in my opinion. I think a lot of leagues, arm wrestling leagues in the past, made the mistake of all the content creators, arm wrestling content creators out there, they have to do the promotion out of their own free will and love of the sport. And to a degree, I agree with that sentiment. You should want to promote the sport as much as possible when you're a content creator in this niche. But then again, I think part of the responsibility is also on the league too. And I'm not only talking about arm wrestling content creators, but just in general, strength sport content creators and like stuff like that, content creators like that in the fitness world. I think East versus West needs to play its part too, and actually reach out some of these people and try to build relationships. Now, I know I'm not the biggest arm wrestling channel out there, even in like a very niche thing like arm wrestling. I'm far from the biggest one, but I haven't like heard a single word from East versus West. Like at least you would think they would send out some kind of press package in an email to every arm wrestling content creator they could find. But as far as I could tell, they haven't really done that. Something that would just give that extra little push and shows people that this league actually wants to build some kind of relationship with other people that are willing to grow the sport, right? But so far, I haven't really seen a lot of that from East versus West. They took some steps, I think, to kind of include the community more, which I have to commend them on. But in general, I think at points they're kind of dropping the ball on that. I don't know if they would agree with me when they would hear me say this, but that's what I think is happening a lot. Chuck says production issues hit a lot, especially when you pay a lot and see it time after time. Yeah, I get you. It can get very frustrating. KL says arm wrestlers and audio professionals name a more disconnected couple. It does feel like that, doesn't it? It does feel like there are some issues that, okay, they're probably more difficult to resolve than I'm giving them credit for. Like, I'm not saying it would be easy, but some things should be resolved by edition 25, right? Like, I get it. The difficulty of... Like, I see several advantages to doing an event like this at a place like Batumi, for example, in Georgia. I think they can save a lot of money on venue costs. Travel will be somewhat cheaper to a place like Georgia. I think just in general, the stays there that they have to pay for their athletes will be cheaper. The food will be cheaper, etc., etc. So I get the appeal of doing it in a country like Georgia, with a strong arm wrestling history, a lot of people interested in the sport, a lot of good athletes coming from Georgia. Totally get why they would want to do it there. But I do think it brings some issues with it as well, doing it in a place like Georgia. One of the things, like, maybe I'm just harping on this too much, but it just felt like the crowd wasn't really there when they showed a couple of zoomed out shots. I think they tried to avoid it in general, but a couple of zoomed out shots of the venue, it didn't really seem full to me at all. Like, there was some crowd, but it didn't really seem full to me. And one of the things they didn't make use of at all is, like, capturing some of the crowd reaction to the matches actually happening. I think those are some invaluable cues to people who are more casually watching the sport. It makes it way easier for them to kind of get into the sport because they see, okay, this person is doing this move on the table and the crowd is reacting very hype. So that kind of motivates a person who doesn't know a lot about the sport yet. Okay, so this is a hype move. Why is that? Let me get into it and stuff like that. So I think they're missing kind of a golden opportunity with including some of the crowd reactions there, unfortunately. KL said Robert should never take the mic. He's like a black hole for hype. It's hard for me because I don't want to make stuff personal. And I think in general, like I said, Robert and all the people at East vs. West are doing a good job with the event. Kind of the best and most consistent job anyone has ever done for arm wrestling so far, which is a crazy thing to say, because there have been some issues and some growing pains, obviously, but they've stuck with it. They're doing a good job, I feel like. But yeah, some things, I don't know. I kind of agree with what you're saying, that I wouldn't necessarily put it that way, but I do think that sometimes when the energy is high, Robert seems like a super chill kind of guy. He's like always laid back and relaxed. And I appreciate those kinds of people, especially when hanging out with them. But maybe at a time like that, in the middle of an event like that, not the best place to insert Robert. I think he would do better as, like, at the end of the event, giving some notes and some things that they want to do for the next event, and asking for people's feedback and stuff like that, kind of winding down the event. I think he would be perfect for something like that. But sometimes, yeah, I do question the timing of when they insert Robert or a Robert speech. PR Snake says, I mean, the event was still enjoyable. There were a lot of good matches. Yeah, I agree. Like I said, even 5 minutes ago, I enjoy nearly each and every one of the East vs. West events that they've put on. The fact that they've managed to put on 25, I know there's been a change in management and stuff like that, but the fact that they are at event number 25 is a real testament to the fact that they're actually doing something right. You know what I mean? Even though, as far as I can tell, or as far as they've said, they're not profitable, they must be doing something right in order to keep getting sponsors and keep keep getting each event funded, right? I don't think Robert and Dexter are like bankrolling this entire thing themselves, right? They keep getting sponsors for the event. They keep getting to set up really big matches. So, and as far as I can tell, they actually pay their athletes what they're owed. So just doing those basic things puts them above like 95% of other arm wrestling leagues and events that were put on before or after. Chuck said, did they at least correct some stats about athletes? I still remember some absurd age of athletes or old mass. Yeah, that's also something that, like, it's a job you would give to an intern, but maybe don't give it to an intern. Maybe give it to a paid employee, you know what I mean? Because it's an easy job as long as you keep paying attention a little bit. It's a very easy job, right? Not super time consuming to get all the stats cards right. And as long as you can pay attention for a couple of hours, you should be good, right? But yeah, they managed to get stats right crazily wrong almost every event. But as far as I could tell, I can't remember one instance of them being wrong this event. The only thing that I saw a couple of hiccups with was the actual scorecard at the top, which like denotes which athlete got a foul, what the how many wins each athlete currently has, and stuff like that. There were a couple of hiccups with updating that in a timely fashion, but nothing major as far as I could tell. Chuck says, I believe they built up Devon too much while the rest of arm wrestler didn't get enough attention and it didn't exactly pay off. Yeah, I can see you having that like perspective on it. I think it's not so much well, it depends on what you mean with they, right? As you say, I believe they build up Devon too much. And if the they in that equation is people watching arm wrestling, or just people in general, then yeah, I agree with you. But I don't think Devon is some kind of like planned from, or that East versus West is like building up Devon too much, or the powers that be in arm wrestling are building up Devon too much. I think Devon is a very entertaining guy. He knows how social media works to a large degree, as people who know how social media works helping him. I think Devon is a product of himself, basically. Where Devon is in the sport right now, and the fact that he's, you could say, the most popular competitive arm wrestler in the world, is mainly due to just Devon, I think. Chuck says, I agree, and one of the best venues was Devon and Dennis, Levan, and Devon number 2, just because people all around the table. Yep, I enjoyed those a lot too. The RS60 says, for the Vitali match, Vitali needs to vacate his title just like Levan did. There's no one in the left-handed division left. Perfect scenario if Vitali gives up his left-hand title to focus on the right. Yeah, I wouldn't mind that necessarily, but that would mean there's kind of a pattern of people doing that once they reach like the absolute top and there's no contenders. Should they just automatically vacate their title? It's not like they can go up a class in weight, so yeah. I don't know. I think it's a little too soon for him to be doing that. Chuck says, I have a very good memory of Kurdecha versus Morozov number 1 because of people behind the table. It just makes sense, right? When you see people actually like reacting to the match in real time, our like 8 brains are programmed to see some kind of like attractiveness in those reactions, right? In other people's faces. So yeah, I think it only makes sense that when we can see people live reacting to a match, it makes it more fun for us. And we can empathize better. Inbu says Devon is easy to hate. A lot of his popularity comes from the heel he plays on stage. Yeah, he knows how to play the crowd. Has learned that throughout the decades. Yeah. PR Snake says, I also believe the pay-per-view might be holding them back. 80% of their audience are young and don't even know how the pay-per-view works. That's interesting. That's interesting. I've heard certain people say the same. What kind of a model do you think they should go to? Should they just broadcast it for free on YouTube or something? Or what do you think their model should be? They go with a subscription service where you have to be a member of the YouTube channel, or like how would you see that happening? Chuck says, I believe it's somehow an effect of the Engin drama when Engin had to go and Devon's stock was growing a lot and some lesser conflicts with Hermes. That's part of it, but I think that's a little too narrow because I think Devon gained a lot of popularity when he started doing collaborations with like the likes of Jujimufu and Larry Wheels and people like that. And he just has a broader appeal than just arm wrestling in general. Certain arm wrestlers have kind of transcended that niche of arm wrestling itself into a wider consciousness. There's people that barely know arm wrestling is a sport but still know Devon Larratt. People like Schoolboy too, and it transcended that too, even though he's not like at the highest level of the sport. I think Devon is kind of unique in that regard, as he holds a following like that and holds the attention of people outside of arm wrestling, but is still like one of the best arm wrestlers at this time. Yeah, I think he is kind of unique in that way. But there's other examples of people doing really well outside of the very specific niche of arm wrestling, right? Even though they're mainly arm wrestlers. Like Maxim Bitterov, for example. King's Move says, yeah, he was just on Joe Rogan also. Yep, definitely helped. No, Chuck, I don't think it's your wrong feelings about it. I think you're also right. It's just there's so many factors going into why someone like Devon would become so popular, and at the end of the day, I think the best way to simplify it is it's just because of himself. Like, he's an entertaining guy who, when he is presented with an opportunity or a chance to do something, he usually just does it, and I think that appeals to people a lot. Ivan Rusanov says we should do YouTube free qualifiers and promote them. Fewer matches in a card. Pick what people want versus what the rankings dictate. Yeah, I kind of love the idea of that. Not really upping people in the rankings, but like giving people a choice between certain matches or athletes that they want to see, or at least getting more of a feel of what the people actually want. I think they're doing that to a degree with sometimes live streaming, like Dexter Tan and Robert Baxter are often on live streams, but I do think their community outreach would be a lot better. I don't know if they have like one person in charge specifically of that, like social media and community relations and outreach, but they definitely should if they haven't already, because a person like that can be invaluable to just constantly expanding the community and connecting people within that community with each other in order to strengthen the general popularity of the sport, right? That's definitely something that they could be driving a lot harder, I feel like. Need to see athletes face risk matches, not be protected by rankings. I do feel in general there should be more of an open opportunity sometimes, but I do get that they're using the rankings to determine matches. I think that only makes sense, right? Hey, the Lucky Ones podcast, how you doing? Good to see you. Welcome. Hope you're doing well. If you haven't checked out the Lucky Ones podcast yet, definitely check them out, especially if you're into the female side of arm wrestling. But then lately I've seen they've been kind of expanding their repertoire, getting some guys on the show too. So yeah, definitely check them out if you haven't already. Yarsnake says the UFC makes a lot of money because of their contract with ESPN. Also, the main problem is the watchability of arguing in the strap for hours. Best of 7 matches would be more common. Yeah, would agree. I think it should be, although some 7-round matches or like best of 7 matches end up being so one-sided from the beginning that you're kind of just waiting until the match is over, you know what I mean? And that just means you have to wait longer. But I'm all for like them trying out new formats. I've long been a proponent of like trying to organize some kind of tournament, you know, with all the top guys or most of the top guys. I think a good example of a new format that I really enjoy is the one put on by our main Australian league, the AWE. They did a great job with their Last Man Standing event. If I can quickly pull that up here. I thought that was a great format. I watched the entire live stream and I enjoyed it a lot. I'll quickly show some small clips of it. I don't think they would mind. It's just every time you get a win, you stay on the table and you get a point. And then at the end of the tournament, they crown 2 people, one who has the most wins, so the most points, and then one who has been at the table for the longest amount of times consecutively. So if someone has been at the table 12 times in a row, but someone else still has more wins in total, then it's 2 different people being crowned. But yeah, really great format. A lot of relatively quick starts, and obviously they're getting later into the tournament here, so it takes a little longer. But a lot of different people on the table, a lot of different styles, people getting really tired after a while. Yeah, I think it's great, stuff like this. It would be great if East versus West would kind of experiment a little bit with that, you know. I know it would cost money. People would argue it would take away from what they're doing with the main league, so maybe not a good idea in that sense, but I think in general they should experiment a little bit with stuff like that. Would be great. But then again, you need to be able to convince athletes too. I think a lot of athletes would like balk at the idea of doing something like this. But would help shake things up. For sure. A tournament would make other events after seem uninteresting, says PR Snake. Might be the case. Might be the case. The way to extrapolate best is where there's tension. For example, Georgie has tension with Larratt, says Levan. Try to goad them towards that match. Engin used to do that. Build up tension and collapse it with an event. Great for viewing and rooting for people. Yeah, the main power of promotion probably is in storylines and characters, right? Getting people interested, but getting people to be interested in someone who isn't already established, it's a super hard thing to do, I think. Like, how would you even start approaching something like that? People are quick not to care, you know what I mean? The strap is a very minor detail. If I want to watch a match, I don't care for a few extra minutes in strap adjustments. Yeah, I get you. And talking as someone who arm wrestles themselves, I don't mind this setup so much because I can kind of tell the intricacies that went into it, you know what I mean? Or that go into a setup and how much it actually matters. So I can appreciate a good setup fight and getting to the strap and stuff like that. But I do think for like a casual viewer or trying to get someone into the sport, can seem very arduous. You just have to like show a match to someone who hasn't seen professional arm wrestling before, and try to show them the entirety of a match with like all the pauses in between and all the setup and stuff like that. It's a very hard thing to keep someone interested in something like that when there's so much quote-unquote downtime for someone who doesn't know what's going on. You know what I mean? So yeah, either they need to find a new approach to that, or they're trying to shorten the time. I think the decisions they made so far have been good, as long as they're not abandoning it. I know in a couple of previous events they worked with a clock that was very clearly visible, and there was even some vocal cues. Someone saying like 30 seconds left before the match, or athletes to the table now, something like that. There needs to be some kind of very clear like notation of this is how much time they have left before they have to get back to the table in between rounds. And if they aren't in this position, like on the riser boards, for example, if they aren't on those within that time limit, automatic foul. Like something like that where it's super clear and they can't go even 1 second over that, I think would help a lot. And I don't think it's something that most athletes would have a difficult time adapting to, because what is clearer than a clock counting down? And if you're not on this spot, when that clock hits 0, you get a foul, right? I think athletes would very quickly learn to be there in time, and it would actually help the match progress. You want to put on chalk and stuff like that, do it during your 1 minute downtime, or half a minute downtime, or however long you make it. PR Snake says Auden has been doing good with the questions. He asks what we want to hear. Yeah, I think Auden is doing a fine job. Chuck says, okay, I have one more take. My feeling is that before the events felt more like big family meetings, and now I feel more vibes similar to nepotism driving business. I don't know about nepotism, like, have we got any actual proof of, like, the organizers hiring family or friends to do all the stuff? Might be the case, I'm not saying it's not, but I just haven't seen any real proof of, like, nepotism within East versus West. If you're referring to, like, which athletes get picked, yeah. Probably athletes that are more friendly with the organizers are more likely to get picked, but that's just a human trait, right? That's gonna happen anyways. Whether they're doing it, like, consciously or subconsciously, that's always gonna happen, you know what I mean? But I think they're also selecting for just, in general, reach, rank. That's what I'm guessing. Those are, like, the two biggest factors. I'm guessing, like, how good of an arm wrestler is this person? And then what kind of reach does this person have? Like, how many people will buy the event because of this person being in the event? You know, how much do we have to pay this person, and how much tickets is he gonna sell for us? Would be my guess for the biggest factor, right? As it should be, in my opinion. Otherwise, as a league, you can't keep existing, right? Profitability should come first. Otherwise, you just can't put on any events. It's the reality of it. Or you can become the WAF, I guess, and find some kind of government support and financing, and then you don't have to worry about profitability. Let me see, the interviewers, the people building hype, they aren't asking questions that create tension. It's too woke now. Too friendly, says Evan. I think people want to believe that there's real tension, like the WWE. I don't know about the woke thing, but I don't really see a lot of quote-unquote wokeness at East versus West. Yeah, I don't know. I don't see a lot of that. Like, I agree with you with the tension. I wouldn't mind them creating some tension in the way athletes interact with each other, but I also don't know if I want to see arm wrestling become WWE adjacent, you know what I mean? I think that's been tried many times, and been kind of shown that people don't really respond well to something like that. Chuck Zitting says, I feel like every East versus West event gets better. Yesterday was one of the best yet. I do agree that in general, the trend is going up, right? I think their production, if you compare edition 1 with like one of the last editions, it's like day and night the difference. They're really getting good at some stuff. Their events are getting better and better in general. That being said, I do think yesterday's event was a step back in a couple of ways. They did some things really well, but in a couple of ways I do think they could have done a bit better, as they have done in previous events. Could just be coincidences, right? There's always going to be something going wrong at like any event. So yeah, it could just be a series of coincidences. Hey Chuck, see you next time, man. To have you here with us again. See you soon, man. I'll try to hit you up on Discord. Vidal Prado says East versus West should have running fouls. We look at the WAL, they were able to have fast matches, and their longest match only 14 minutes. Yeah, I think they should explore running fouls. I think they did, right? At a certain point, didn't they kind of introduce it, or was that King of the Table? Maybe that was King of the Table. I think they shouldn't shy away from experimenting with stuff like that. You can try it, as long as it's consistently applied. I think the thing with running fouls is they're based on a very subjective metric, and in general it might be smarter to try to move to a more objective method of refereeing and providing as much clarity to the audience as possible, you know what I mean? Like at a certain point, I can't quite remember which match it was, but it was a quite an important one where one of the athletes got fouled because of jump starts, and both athletes had a foul already, and then one of the other athletes also did a jump start and didn't get fouled for it. They kind of just let the match go ahead because otherwise the match would end with fouls. Which, you know, I get that, and I want to see the match just as much as anybody else, but I think it's in the sport's best interest if they just apply the rules very consistently. If people that are getting into the sport watch the same event like 2 editions in a row, and the rules are the same but they're being applied very inconsistently over these 2 events, or even within the same event, I think that's going to turn some people off to the sport in general. It's going to make it a lot more difficult for people to actually know what's going on at all times, which at the end of the day is something you want to cultivate, right? Hey Kazazuri, how you doing? Good to see you. Welcome, welcome. Yeah, Ivan, I get that. Too sterile, I can kind of get behind. Yeah. Like I said, I think there's room for both approaches to a degree, or maybe some kind of middle road. Because I do agree that sometimes it is a little, it feels too sterile. I think that's a good word to use there. Let me quickly pull up the poll. I haven't checked on this one since the start of the stream. It seems that most people here actually watched the event. About 2/3 of you watched East versus West 25. I think this was one of these events where people who are deep into the sport, which is probably the majority of viewers of East versus West, let's be honest, or at least the majority of paper watch viewers and buyers. But I think for those kinds of people, and I include myself in that, this was an enjoyable event. Had several standout matches, quite a few one-sided matches, but that's always going to be the reality of putting on an arm wrestling event. But I think in general was an enjoyable event. I enjoyed it. I think the person that I watched it with enjoyed it for the most part. So talking about that person, Kazazuri says good addition, quick matches, a bit one-sided sometimes. Yep. I think a lot of the matches were very quick compared to some previous editions, so I think the things they've been implementing with giving the athletes shorter rest times between rounds, trying to go to the straps after they've already slipped twice, going straight to the straps, stuff like that is good in general for the progression of the tournament. I remember previous editions that started at the same time but ended like 3 hours later than this one did, so I think in general those are very good changes. Because Azuri says, I think the usuals won their match. Yeah, there were a couple of surprises here and there. But I think there were quite a bit of one-sided affairs for sure. But yeah, like I said, all in all, I enjoyed the event. I've complained more than enough for the time being about like what many people would consider nitpicks, let's be honest here. And then yeah, the only thing that's like surprising, or the most surprising thing, is Levan vacating his title, I guess. I saw some people saying they saw it coming, kind of. I don't know about that. I personally didn't. And I do think it's a shame because instead of Levan waiting even longer to pull, I would have preferred to maybe East versus West put something in writing about how title defenders have to defend their title 2 or 3 times a year in order for them to keep it, which would automatically make Levan give it up. But at the end of the day, this kind of leads to the same result, right? So I'm not angry about it. I think at the end of the day, it might like insert some new life into the super heavyweight class that we haven't seen in a long time. And if that's the case, then yeah, I'm looking forward to that quite a bit. Camille versus Svetkov best matches, because yeah, I think so. We went over most of the matches during the live stream already. We skipped a couple, but we went over most of them. Hey, the Fearless Spectrum, how you doing? Good to see you. Good to see you. PR Snake says, if the athletes trash talk more during the match, those one-sided wars would be fun too, a bit like Devon in the Mindaugas clip against Ustinov got tons of views, for example. Yeah, it wouldn't hurt for the athletes to be a little more, how do I even put this, not necessarily assertive, but playing off of each other a little bit more would be good. You know, I don't think people need to force certain characters. I think they just need to showcase their own character a bit more. People who are not necessarily timid, but not as expressive as other people, let's put it that way, don't necessarily need to put on a fake front, because I think that's quite apparent very quickly to an audience, you know, that's paying attention. I just think maybe they need to play up their own character or character traits just a little more towards their opponents. I wouldn't mind that at all. At all. Before we leave for today, a quick thank you to all the members that are still with me. I greatly appreciate it. There's a couple of videos that I've been working on that you have to look forward to this month. Gonna be at least 2, but probably more if I can make it happen. So yeah, look forward to that one. And other than that, thank you so much for hanging out with me. I had a great time, as always. I'll be back next Sunday. I'll try to get back into the habit of going live every Sunday at this time. And yeah, you can check out the fix. I don't know if Neil is actually going live with the fix, but that's usually what happens after this stream. And if I don't see you there in chat, you'll definitely see me next Sunday. Until then, Arm Historian, out of here.